Hey, what's up? James and I hopped on a call to do a little catch-up episode. We chat about my trip to Milan and some AI news and the classic Threads versus Twitter debate. So I think it's a good ep. I think you all will enjoy it. And we are still running our affiliate link with Moment. Moment actually rebranded. It's now called Visoon. So Visoon creates amazing keyshot assets for designers, and I've used them in some of my work, and it's really great because I can just drag and drop. I don't have to create any extra assets, and it makes your renders look amazing. So check them out. It helps us out. Every purchase you make, we get a little cut of that. So, make sure you put in our affiliate link. It's in the description, and we really appreciate it. And as always, you all know the deal. Like, subscribe, give us that 5-star rating on Spotify, on YouTube. Click the bell on YouTube. That's the new thing, the bell icon. And yeah, make sure you send us an email if you have a question or a comment. We always love reading those. And we will do a email episode soon, so stay tuned for that. And other than that, let's hear the amazing intro by KYOSHY the Kid. Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
And we're two designers across the country.
Sweating the small stuff. We should pretend to high five at the end of that.
Just
do
on
a
a little
split
video
screen
screen.
high five.
I forget, did we have split screen on the video before, or was it back and forth?
I
Can't forget what we did last
I don't
week.
know. I feel like if I open up a new tab, I will close out this tab like I did last time.
It's actually kind of a nice app. It's called Riverside. If anyone's interested, I guess we had the watermark on the last episode, but it's essentially Skype specifically for podcasting, or Zoom. So it's nice.
Yeah.
James, it's good to chat because last week or last episode we just went straight into the Apple Vision Pro. So any updates in your life?
I don't know that I've mentioned this on the podcast, but, in August, Allison and I are expecting our second child.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So, yeah, I don't think I've mentioned that on the podcast.
It's exciting, man.
It is exciting. We have a house. We have a child on the way. We currently have painters in the house. It's crazy. But, yeah, I don't know. I think we've adapted to suburban life pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You got another kid on the way, painting the house. You have a house. I mean, I'm over here. Oh, I didn't tell you this, James. My house got foreclosed.
Wait, what?
The apartment I rent has no landlord anymore.
What?
Yeah, the bank owns my apartment.
Okay. So what is that? You're still living in that dump, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, from episode 1, we were there right in my bedroom with the egg crate foam all over the walls. Yeah. Still in the same place.
Anybody who thinks that Nick Baker leads a glamorous life need only visit the place where he lives.
Listen,
and realize that he's I don't know. I mean, it's a good business decision to live in a hellhole, but
I just sleep there. That's all I need is a bed, I'm at the studio the rest of the time.
Why not just have a bed at the studio?
That is an option. That might have to be the option when I get kicked out of my house.
Is that going to happen, or what's going to happen?
I don't know. I believe the process is that the bank sends us a letter that says we have to leave within a certain period of time. But we haven't got that letter yet. And I mean, my place, James. It's if someone just forgot about it, I don't think anyone would notice. And honestly, I think that's probably what happened with the landlord. The landlord probably just forgot that they owned the place and just So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going backwards actually, James. You've bought a house. I'm losing an apartment, not even a house.
That's exciting. Those are the exciting moments in the upper trajectory of life. You can't take one step. What is the saying? One step forward, two foreclosures back.
Yeah, two foreclosures. Oh my god. So yeah, that's a fun little tidbit. We'll see how that works out.
Sorry for your loss.
It's all good. I mean, who knows?
Um,
Maybe just no one ever comes and kicks us out, and we're just there for forever. I think there's squatters laws or something. We lived
squatters' rights, right? Yeah,
we lived there for like 10 years. It's our place.
exactly. Yeah, you actually might be gaining a property.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah, and then you too can become a slumlord. But yeah, I mean, no other big updates that I can think of on my end. Just still doing the design director thing at the family business thing, and
I will
what's that?
say your office looks like it has a few more trinkets on the wall.
Oh,
You got some
well,
quotes there, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan of that I don't know what you call that, a light for the road barrier, a road light,
oh yeah,
hazard light maybe.
yes. Um, but yes, behind me on the wall, I my first day at the job, I made two little posters, quote unquote, um, two quotes that were really impactful to me in my career. And this one is from my first manager, Jason Poor. And it's the best design is the one that's finished,
Mm-hmm.
because you can just constantly sit there and tweak and just get so bogged down on what you're working on. But really at the end of the day, you just have to know when to say it's good enough, and move on with your life, because it can eat you alive if you're just constantly trying to tinker. And he told this story once that I thought was great about fillets. Like, he was working on, I forget what the product was. It was something really small, and he spent like an entire night trying to like blend out this fillet, surfacing, and then he got the part back and realized like it was this small and the detail was even smaller. Like, it just like the juice was not worth the squeeze, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's just, those kind of things that you learn. And it's in large part, to me, it's about having a sustainable career, like not burning out, burning yourself out,
100%.
which I think can happen really easily, especially in creative fields.
Hey, that's great advice. I mean, I will say that Philip probably looked amazing on those close-up renders that landed on Les Manouche, though.
Exactly. Back then, Les Manouche was a free newspaper in New York.
Yeah, before they had the blog, it
right
was
next
just
to Time Out. Yeah.
they imported Les Manouche from France. It came in a little newspaper bag, and
Yeah, it was like a Sears catalog.
exactly. Can you imagine a Les Manouche like McMaster car catalog that you got one Les Manouche catalog every year?
I mean, I could see Les Manouche publishing something at some point.
Yeah.
It just seems, I don't know. I would love that to happen.
They should do a book. I think that'd be great, like a 10-year book or something.
Every like if you follow music and you follow music journalism, there's the site Pitchfork, which does like best albums of, this past year or whatever. But they also do best albums of like the 90s, best albums of the 2000s, like top 100, whatever. And it's like, I want like the top 100, like, or I don't know, top 50 design details of the 2000s. Like, the compendium
I support
of
that.
each. Yeah.
There is actually I think it's called the Design Yearbook. I don't know if I don't know if they make it anymore or not. But it was similar idea where every year it published all of the industrial design that came out for that year. And it
Yeah.
was, it's really comprehensive. I wish I could remember the name. It's something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I guess
I don't know if
I
you remember
guess
that
all
or
the
not.
award ceremonies are kind of a way of capturing that, but I think specifically like breaking it out into details and I don't know, forms, CMF, whatever, like really getting granular about it because I feel like that's what's great about Lemonouche is it's like it's not just like, oh, check out this great product. It's like check out like this specific detail of this product. Um
Yeah.
I like that. I like that granularity.
Oh, one more thing, James. Is this hazard light? I got it. First of all, I had this like weird obsession with the subway lanterns that the MTA carries when they do construction. Have you ever seen those?
I don't know if I have.
It's just this.
Let me
It's just this beautiful, functional. Yeah, I wonder if we could share my screen here.
Oh, I think I see it.
It's just this beautiful, functional, kind of cylindrical lantern. Very
Mhm.
kind of pure and utilitarian. And I'm just obsessed with one. I really want one. And every time I see one, I'm just like, maybe I could like walk up and be like, hey, I'll give you $50, $100 for it. And you just tell your boss that you lost it in the subway tunnel, you know?
Yeah. I are you did you find it? Are you sharing it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me see.
I think I may have found it. Is it plastic?
Yeah, it's plastic.
Is it? Yeah,
Let me see if I can share my screen here.
do it.
Screen or presentation? Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's super utilitarian, but it's just such a nice little thing.
Yeah, that is nice. The thing that I've always seen in the subway or that I had always seen in the subway um was there's like they seem like they might be speaker boxes that are on the escalator, like in the sort of median in between escalators. There's like a speaker box with a grill, and I just would love to just chop that off at the bottom and make it into a Bluetooth speaker.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know there's like those barriers so that if you hop on the side of the escalator, you can't slide down.
Mm.
But you're saying there's
Yeah,
speakers there too, or at least
I don't.
grills.
Let me see if I can find it.
Such an obscure little detail.
It's
That's
very obscure.
I will say that's like one of the best things about living in New York is there's so many little details like that, and it's just like a gold mine for minor details.
Yeah. I just feel like you could do that. Like if a company like, I don't know, like Balenciaga or something, like did that, and did like a collaboration with the MTA to just like, I don't know, raise money for the MTA, but have like essentially a gift shop.
I would support that.
I've found I think I found some pictures with it, but it's kind of hard to see. Let me share my screen. Here. Can you Oh wait. Now I'm going to a different page. Can you see? Ah,
Oh, you got Keyshot running, James? What's going on here?
shh. Can you see this thing right here?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm circling?
See, those are like, to me, I always thought those were like blockers so that you didn't
No,
slide
I think
down.
these are the blocks.
Okay.
But these have a grill.
It must be a vent of some sort. Yeah.
Maybe it's a vent.
Because I'm sure it gets hot with all those like moving gears and stuff.
Right.
Interesting.
Anyway, we got a lot of good product ideas already.
Nice.
But yeah, what's going on with you?
I mean, I think the big thing that we want to talk about is just the Milan trip because, we haven't chatted about that. I know 2 episodes ago we talked about preparing for Milan. So
Yeah.
it was really great. Really fun to see the super chair in person, which is wild. you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, maybe we should do some establishing the scenario because it's been a long time since 2 episodes ago.
oh man, we're slacking off, James.
I know.
um, yeah. So obviously the pretty big project of designing a monoblock plastic chair came to fruition, and I get to Milan to see it for the very first time. Our timeline was so short. You can go back and listen to the episode if you want to dig into it, but it was, we did it quick enough to show it from Milan that year, and I had not seen it in person. I saw photos of it, like a month before, or maybe even quicker. Maybe it was like a couple weeks before, and it looked great, and I was excited to see it. And I get to the show, and Salone is in this huge, complex with like 20 warehouses, and it's like a mile long. And in order to, walk, it was at the very end, so I had to walk to the very end. And there's like a little, not escalators, but moving sidewalks to get there. And I walk in, and I walk all the way back to the back for where the booth is, and I turn the corner, and there it is, the super chair in a rainbow of colors.
And this is the first time you ever saw it in person.
First time.
Because the timeline, what was the timeline between like concept to like production?
I think I must have came up with the concept in September or something. I've definitely had some sort of idea around this kind of undulating planar form floating around for a while, but it clicked. The exact design that I made had clicked in like September, October, and then I had rendered it out. And then that's kind of when it gained attention. And I met with Damiano Latini, who owns the brand, in, I believe, November. So, yeah, it was like 6 months from that meeting until the final thing, which is insane. But I'm pleased with how it came out. And, I think it could have gone a lot of ways, but I think it worked out. So the sitting in it for the first time too was quite an experience, because it has a unique finish to it. It has kind of a soft touch feel to it. They have a coating that they apply afterwards, so it's not just like a plastic chair. It's like a pretty high end. They did. I got to visit the factory, and we can talk about that in a second. But it was just like I couldn't stop touching it because it was just so smooth. It has this like silky matte satin finish to it. It's really nice.
I imagine some like Greek tragedy where, some designer just like cannot stop touching the chair that they designed. And,
right.
And it's just like
some sort of Midas touch, or like, something similar to that.
Well,
yeah.
Like Narcissus staring into the water and turning into a flower. It's like it's like, Nick, the show's over.
Yeah.
Everybody's gone. Like,
I also got to meet the whole team for the first time. And I got to meet Antonio again, who, I had mentioned last time was kind of the project lead art director for kind of managing the chair and the details. And Antonio has his own studio. Antonio, just to clarify that, because I don't think I mentioned that last time, Antonio Lanzillo and partners. So he's pretty established Italian designer.
Cool.
So big shout out and thanks to him. And so when I got there, of course, I got to see the chair and sit in the chair. And then Damiano, the founder CEO, he gives his phone to Antonio, and it's like, Antonio, record this. I have a surprise for Nick. And I'm like, oh, you have a surprise? Like, what is this about? And he gets down on one knee, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. He pulls out this ring box, and he opens it up, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? Am I getting proposed to? And it is the first piece of metal shaving that came off of the injection mold.
Oh,
I don't know if I saw you.
that's cool.
Did I ever show you this, James?
No.
Yeah. And then yeah, the ring box has like this little museum style information on it. It's like tempered steel,
that that kind of touch makes me proud to be an Italian.
Yeah, it was really nice. I mean, Damiano is such a great, guy, and I think he has that kind of surprise, and that was their whole thing, designed to surprise. And he has that kind of fun, crazy edge, which I think was great because it also aligns with my philosophy, a lot of playful, delightful, ethos.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I mean, the booth looked great. Big shout out to the whole team for putting that together. They did a lot of work. Obviously, I was just the original sketch on the design. So, it's great to see it come to fruition.
Well, it's cool because it seemed like in the booth they had some like big LED screen, and on there was you like modeling the chair in VR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they really celebrated the process.
Yeah, I like that a lot too, and I think it really stopped a lot of people in their tracks just to see that happen because, I don't think that's a very common thing, and of course you see it when I post on social media, but even then, not everyone at a furniture show has seen that stuff online. So
yeah, well, and you can imagine I can imagine that people at Milan can get fatigued seeing chair after chair, piece of furniture after piece of furniture, and it's like, what's the story?
Right.
What's sort of the hook? And like, that's a big, it's a very visual, vivid hook.
Yeah.
To the story of the chair.
So it was like such a cool thing to. Also, it was nice because I think there was a lot of designers that were excited to see the chair themselves. A lot of our listeners, and I got to.
Did you meet some doctors?
I
met some MDs.
I met some MDs for sure. So it was great to just talk to the listeners and connect with people. I mean, that was there was a lot of networking on the whole trip. But definitely at the show, it was nice to like show people and my friends too. I was there with some friends. So it's like, I don't know, it was a really great experience. So I'm really pleased how it turned out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so did you see, I mean, just generally Milan, was there any other highlights?
I think, and I think we had mentioned this a little bit, but, or you and I have talked about this offline, but I've been to Milan, I guess, twice before, and the past two times it was very much for fun, right? I think I was going just to enjoy design and celebrate design and just see everything. This time I came with a mission, right? Like, I hadn't gone in, I guess, 2 years, and that was also when I had rebranded my studio and pivoted to focus a lot more on furniture and licensing. And so coming this year, I was like, all right, I am coming to network this year. Like, I'm not just coming to like hang out and just, see stuff. And so there was a lot of great opportunities to connect with people and going to events and parties and just talking with people. I don't know, it just felt really good to be able to. And two, I even got a few design meetings with companies and big brands. So it was like, hey, these well-known Italian brands, or there was a Dutch brand in there too, and it was like these brands are interested in seeing my work. Whether or not they want to make it or not, who knows? But it's nice for someone to say, hey, we like what you're doing. Let's sit down and have a conversation for half hour. So that was like a really validating moment. So I don't know. It's felt like I've had a lot of these puzzle pieces floating around for like 3 years and going to Milan. It's like finally I'm putting the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like that's in general what I've seen of you since gosh, you know, I feel like you went through that the sort of like business development course to develop your brand, the brand around your studio, and since then I feel like you've been playing 4D chess, you know? I feel like before then it was a lot of like and the same can be said for me. It was just a lot of like throwing darts, you
hmm
know, at a
Yeah.
board and just like hoping for bullseyes. Um but I do feel like it's cool to see that like your sort of focus is like paying off, you
Yeah.
know. I think that that's really awesome. Like, do you like how does that resonate with you? Like, do you feel like yeah, like I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely really satisfying, right? It's like all this work that I've put in, and it feels the problem with like strategy work and kind of aligning, like working on the business and not design, is that it feels very it's not very satisfying. It's not satisfying to open up a spreadsheet and write down every single brand that you ever want to work for and then figure out who to talk to at that brand and connect with. Like it's not satisfying to like do all that kind of busy work. But it is super satisfying to show up to Milan, you know, and have people want to talk to you. You know, I think that's like the payoff. So yeah, I think it's like that delayed satisfaction thing of like before we were just throwing darts at a board, making fun things, which is fine too. I mean, I still enjoy doing that, but it's, you know, a lot of my time spent now is like, all right, I had this concept. Who should I pitch it to? I need to be very deliberate with this. So I don't know. And I'm still exploring too. I think it was great to talk to other designers at Milan and get their thoughts on licensing. And I'm, you know, still really fresh to this kind of way of work. And by no means is it like a sustainable way of working. I think you still have to have other income streams. That's pretty much all around what the advice was from talking to many designers, unless you make it big, right? That's the catch. If you make a Juicy Salif and, you know, that'll pay you $10,000 a month for whatever infinity or even more in royalties, then you're set to kind of move into licensing full time or take on projects that, you know, you really want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. It was great to like connect with other kind of colleagues and talk about this stuff as well. Because it's not a big thing in the U.S. either. You know, that's another side of the equation, is that a lot of the licensing industry is in Europe. But also, I do want to show this. Have I showed my business card on the
I don't know
podcast?
if you've shown it on camera.
Because this is my 4D chess move. This is 100% my 4D chess move. Let me go grab it real quick.
Nick is getting his business card. It's super unique. You'll never guess what it is.
Oh my gosh.
Come and check it out.
We're going to have to cut that out. I feel like we just lost.
Come on.
Just kidding.
I'm a crooner, man.
All right. So, you know, this is one of these things, right, where it's like, it feels a little bit frivolous and not worth the time doing. But in the end, it actually, I think, really helped my business. So when you're in Milan, see this like huge warehouse of, you know, a gazillion furniture brands, and all these brands obviously want to sell their furniture. So when a designer walks up and is like, "Hey, I'm a designer. Like, can I, instead of, you know, paying you money for furniture, can you pay me for designs?" No one wants to talk to that person. And of course, designers approach these people all the time. So they're kind of like walking up to booths and just like cold, you know, saying like, "Hey, I'm a designer." They usually just like, "Okay, here's the business card of our PR person. Email them," or something like that. They just kind of shrug away.
Right.
But I brought my business card, which is a model kit of the yield chair. And then I have my business card here. But
Nice.
it looks like, one of the little toy models that you get at Michael's or craft store or whatever. And, it turns into this little thing. And I just 3D printed them out and put them in a little envelope. And I must say it was a pretty good move. I would highly recommend for anyone that's kind of interested in networking to have a business card that's like just a little bit more unique and clever. That makes someone smile.
Yeah.
So, because it would really change the conversation. I remember like I was meeting with like some lighting company, and I was just like, hey, like I'm a designer, like would love to send you lamps and stuff. And then the person was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And I was like, well, here's my business card. And they're like, wait, what's this? And they opened it up, and it was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like we'd love to see it. It just like changed the mood a lot.
That's cool.
So that was a lot of fun.
That's sweet. Yeah, it's good to hear that a move like that works out, because like you could very easily talk yourself out of doing something like that. You're like, I don't know, it's just, it's just a little
cheesy,
goofy or cheesy, but no, I mean, that's the thing, is like so many things just don't get executed on because you talk yourself out of it, and then it's just like, but what if I had tried that? So I applaud you for the courage.
Thanks. Yeah. There's ways to do it elegantly, I think. I mean, I think I try to strike that balance of, fun, but also not like kitschy.
Did you give one to Fukasawa?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I must have, right? Yeah, I must have. For sure, 100%.
I bring that up so that you could
talk about
the fact that you met Fukasawa.
Yeah, I met a lot of
who
people.
I know is, if you know Nick, that's
that's my
that's a
big favorite designer.
Yeah.
And yes, this was the very first day of Milan. I go and I see the super chair, like riding on that high, right? And then there was some other things too. I got to meet Rolf Hay, founder of Hay, which was a whole other story. It was like the opposite story.
Hey.
But, and then walking out that day, I am just walking through the gates, like going back to the subway, and I turn around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there he is. That's Fukasawa. And so I just walk over, and I'm like, Fukasawa, like, is this you? And he's like, oh, hey, yeah. And I'm like, hey, I'm just a huge fan of your work. I've admired you for a really long time. Like, just wanted to say thank you for inspiring me and many other people. And, he was so grateful and happy, and which is kind of surprising. I thought I would expect, especially at the end of a day like that, the first day, which is just crazy, to be like tired and be like, okay, yeah, thanks, goodbye. And I've had this experience, and it's whatever. Like I don't try to put that on anyone, but he was just so nice and bubbly. And then I gave him my business card, and he's like, oh, thank you. He didn't open it up or anything, but he was like, well, giving me my business card. And so like Fukasawa gives me his business card, and I'm like, oh my god.
Did he hand it to you with both hands?
Yeah.
Nice.
Very Japanese. And then of course I'm like, can I get a photo? And he's like, oh, of course. And the photo is great. I think I posted my story or something. But I don't know, it was just a really happy moment. It was such a wild day. And I have his business card like on my shelf, like in a little like sleeve now. So
nice. Did you invite him to come see your chair, or did you tell like?
I must have been too starstruck to really say anything.
Yeah,
I think I asked.
I can imagine.
I asked him about his day, like, how was the show for you? A little bit. We talked for 30 seconds or something, but.
What did he launch? Was there any new Fukasawa at Milan?
I think so. I mean, I think usually launch stuff every year, but I think a lot of it now is pretty simple and standard stuff.
Yeah. Um, it's so it's funny. Behind me is work from my favorite industrial designer, Alex Hochstrasse,
Right.
who designed for Astro Active People, a toy brand, and now he has his own like kids toys and.
Did he invent
Um,
Astrojax?
no, he did. It was a
Just the idea.
physicist
Okay.
invented Astrojax, and he gave it the form.
Right.
But and did all the branding, all the packaging, everything. But yeah, now he has his brand Moloch, which is for like littler kids. But he worked for Fukasawa.
Oh, no way.
So and spoke very highly of him, obviously. So
That's great.
yeah. Anyway, so I think and so you went to
Oh, yeah,
the
that was day one.
factory.
So, yeah.
Did you want to cover anything else from Milan or?
I think I just wanted to touch on one more thing because
Yeah.
I think it's kind of important and an interesting idea, and it is the fact that I got to meet a lot of other younger designers who listen to the podcast and know my work, and we're just appreciative of you and I just sharing our knowledge. And of course, we've had that experience before where you and I go to schools and we get to chat with people, and it's a rewarding experience. But it's not really a prevalent thing in kind of the furniture design world, European design world. It's not like Fukasawa has a podcast, or like Jasper Morrison are like hanging out with like the students and like chatting, and I think there's this level of like prestige and mystery that kind of comes into the European scene, or maybe it's rivalry or kind of pretentious closed offness. I don't know. There's something there that's a little different, as opposed to, I guess, American industrial design is a little bit more open. We're a family, kind of keeping a community. And it might just be that I'm not, as in touch with the European scene, but that's kind of the vibe. And so I've always kind of felt, and this was something that, we were talking about when I was doing my rebrand, was like, I wonder, does it make sense for, my studio to be doing a podcast, or me as a designer to be doing a podcast? Like just as a brand thing, right? Just strategically. Of course, I've come back and said, like, yeah, I think that's the right thing to do. Like, that's what, we should be doing. So I've always kind of felt maybe like self-conscious about it, or that, brands don't take me seriously, or bigger designers like think it's kind of silly or dumb or whatever, to like hang out with like the students or the kids. But I realized, especially on this trip, was like the designers that were coming up to me and chatting with me are like working for these brands now, like Alessi or like Muto or Hey or whatever, like some like big brands. And they were just saying like, hey, I love what you and James do. We love to listen to the podcast. I'm like, oh, that's great. I, wouldn't really think that, people at those, big cool brands would listen to you and I. And it was great to connect with those people, because now I have connections at these companies. And I think we talked about this offline, but there's this concept that I had never really thought about that I think you had this perfect term for, which is like networking down. So, we always think about networking up, like who's the key player to talk to, who's the design director that I can, work with. But there is equal, if not as much opportunity, like helping the people below you. I don't know. I feel like that was really your point, because you were telling me this, but that was your.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that there's, it can be sort of, if you're narrowly thinking just about networking up, you're going to miss out on a lot. I mean, I just don't think that it's maybe as obvious. I mean, I think that there's so much to connecting with younger designers. Like, for one thing, like bringing in younger designers, having younger designer interns keeps you in touch with like the culture that's coming up, because otherwise you're completely disconnected. I mean, I every day I'm like actively trying to understand the current music landscape, and I feel like it's totally failing me. I'm like
100 gex hyperpop stuff or what?
I'm like, no, I actually
Even
that
farther.
part
Okay.
that part I'm very I get very much.
I guess they're mainstream now, anyways.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just like, I don't know, because I listen to now that I do a car commute, I listen to the radio, and I've been listening to Sirius XMU, which is like the indie station, but they're playing bands that I was listening to in like college, and I'm like, this doesn't feel current.
Well, no one listens to the radio, James. James, you've gone full
like,
dad mode. I feel like you listen to the radio?
Dude, it's awesome. I'm gonna say I do love listening to the radio. Have you AI news? Have you listened to the like AI Spotify DJ?
I haven't heard that one.
Have you done that? There's like there's a feature on Spotify where it's basically creates a playlist, but then there's a DJ that comes in intermittently and is like, hey James, like, we saw that you were really into, freak folk in the 2006 era, so here's some Animal Collective for you. Like,
interesting.
So it's very much catered to you. But I do like, I mean, I come from sort of a radio background, in that I did radio in school.
True.
Like, I love having that like intermittent like personality coming through to talk a little bit before, you just listen through a playlist. And I don't know, I sometimes I do feel like there's something missing that I do get from radio. But the point I was trying to make is like, it's very difficult to keep up with trends of like, and I'm just so like curious about trends. I mean, I think that's part of being a designer, is just you're infinitely curious about like the trends that are happening within culture. And so like knowing those, like having young designers around is a way of like connecting to that, which I think is valuable, because you just like, I think I've said it before, but the thing that I like fear the most is becoming that like super out of touch designer whose like website looks like it was made 20 years ago, and nothing, their aesthetic is caught in a certain time and place, and it hasn't evolved, but yeah, I don't know. So I'm just like, I think that keeping in touch with like the younger designers is the way maybe to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I almost think you're ahead of the curve, honestly. Maybe radio's coming back. Maybe we're like anti-algorithm now. It's like, oh, I can see some like, I want to say hipster, but that's not the right word. Hipsters are dead, but it's like, some trendy
hipsters are dead.
Some trendy kid like, oh yeah, like, oh, you guys listen to algorithms? I'm old school.
Well,
I just like the raw, like human.
I just let it ride on the radio.
Yeah.
I let somebody else choose for me.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think the problem that we face in the age of the internet is just like infinite possibility, and what we need is curation. And so like there's some people that are just really good at curating, and that's where like the radio DJ is like is a curator. But yeah, I don't know that radio's, well, I think obviously podcasting. I think I've said maybe on this podcast before. I think podcasting is like the new indie rock. Like I don't. I think one of the reasons that I feel like I don't understand the current music scene is because a lot of people who would have become musicians or started a band maybe started a podcast instead, because there's lots of these like really super obscure podcasts that feel like they're made on a shoestring budget.
Right. Which they
people
are.
discussing like discussing ideas and BSing generally, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Like there's something really exciting about this.
Yeah.
But we digress. Did you want to talk about the factory tour?
Right. Yeah. The last thing was the factory, which is pretty exciting to see. So I stayed in Italy for 2 weeks, and so the first week was just Milan design week, and then after things settled down, we went out to the factory, and it's maybe an hour drive outside of Milan, and it's in kind of this area that's pretty famous for injection molding, specifically like plastic furniture. It's really kind of the best of the best in that little area. They have all the best mold makers and all the best. They're really great on recycling plastic and things like that. So the factory tour was incredible. It's called SPM Molding, I believe. And they do a lot of the furniture for Cartel and Magis, and they've worked with like Apple on some small parts and stuff. Yeah, and they do also a lot of car stuff. So like half of their stuff is furniture, half is car, like dashboards and things like that. So the stuff they make is super, complex and impressive. And the factory was amazing. They have the full stack. So they have a mold making factory, and when we walked in there, it's a huge warehouse. Of course, it's spotless. It's the mold making factory, and my mold was getting machined. So this is also the catch to the why we could do it in 6 months, is that they hadn't finished the mold completely. They had just finished it enough to make the chair, but there was a lot of other cooling, or I don't know, special things they had to add to the mold, but they like got the bare minimum done to manufacture a few chairs, but to make it efficient you have to finish the mold. So there's this huge CNC machine that looked as big as a house. It must have been 20 foot cubed, and it had stairs to walk up to it. And I walk up to it, and then, and it's a house inside of this warehouse, so it's huge. I don't know how to explain the scale of it. And I look in the window, and there it is, the super chair mold, or at least one half of it. And that was kind of a wild moment too. And then I got to go to the factory floor where they injection mold everything. And everything too in this factory is automated and just super high tech. Like they have the arm that comes in and takes the chair out of the injection molding machine, puts it on the conveyor belt. Conveyor belt goes down. Someone puts it on some sort of train that goes to the next station or whatever. It's wild. Which I think probably have to keep things efficient. Probably for just cost reasons, and also they're big on sustainability there, so they want to make things as efficient as possible. And then there's a paint booth, so you put the chair on the paint booth, and it goes around this like train ride thing. It kind of reminds me of like a train at the kids park. Remember those mini trains? There's like a little track and you hop on. Do you ever have one of those?
Like it's a North Carolina thing.
No, they have them everywhere. You go to a park, like a town park, and there's like a train around the park.
Oh, you mean
like a kid's train,
like the
amusement park.
Wooden train?
It's like
like an actual like functioning train.
Did you never have one?
Okay. I can't remember any specific memory of a.
Anyways, it's just
train.
like a conveyor belt, like on a track or whatever. And then they coat it with their special, silky smooth touch or whatever thing. And then we also got to see their plastics kind of machine where they take in they're taking in right now post-industrial recycled plastic, or polypropylene is what the chair is made out of, and they are really diligent about like filtering it and making it perfect. So it's pretty great. I won't say, I don't know this for sure, but I think that's also another aspect of the kind of the coating they put over it, is to, if there was a speck of like black or something in the plastic, they would just, since it has a coating, you don't see it. So that might be part of the equation there. I don't know that for sure, but that's just like my guess. Or I can't recall. I don't think I asked that question. I'm just thinking about it right now. And then it goes to a warehouse where it's put in this box with all the other, like, to see like the cartel box that has like Jasper Morrison's chair on it, and then like the super chair box. It's like it's wild. And the warehouse is vertical. It's all automated. So like it kind of reminds me of the scene in Monsters Inc. where you see all the doors and it's just this like huge vertical like warehouse. I don't know if you remember that scene. Oh man,
that's funny.
That's what it reminds me of, and just like boxes moving up and down.
Yeah, coincidentally, Clara is really into Monsters Inc. right now. And there's like a Disney Plus show called Monsters at Work, which is like about another like a somebody who graduates from Monsters University and goes to Monsters Inc. to start working as a scarer, and it's like the end of the last movie where they've like figured out that laughing is, and so they're like, well, I only know how to scare, and so they put him in like the maintenance department, and it's about him in the maintenance. It's a good show. Good. That sounds good. No, I was going to ask you, Nick, did you strip down to your birthday suit and go through the soft touch process?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I mean, of course not. Why not? That's like totally bypassing any sort of rigorous skincare routine. Just get the soft touch treatment.
No, I should have stripped down and laid down on the cold steel super chair mold. I think that would have been nice.
Oh man. That's cool.
That was great trip.
Is that your first ever factory tour? You had been into factories for when you were at
PetMate.
Your pet job, PetMate.
Yeah, because we had an injection mold factory in Texas. So, and they had recycling plant too, which I think we talked about in the last podcast. But it's just interesting perspectives, right? Because it's like, I think recycling plastic is sometimes a cost-effective thing. If you get, very cheap post-industrial recycled plastic, it's cheaper to buy that than virgin resin. And that was like the main motivation in Texas, was like, oh, let's just, use this recycled plastic because it's cheaper. I think there's a lot of laws in Italy, so I don't know the cost of the recycled plastic in Italy, but I think it's like almost mandatory there. So it's a little different, but just interesting insight. I mean, yeah, you gotta love a factory tour. It definitely one of the most polished and clean and amazing factories I've ever seen. I'm sure many factories around the world are not like that. So,
yeah. Well, it'll be cool to see where you first encounter the super chair in the wild.
Yeah. Hopefully, they're starting to manufacture them.
Where is it going to show up?
Yeah, they're supposed to start manufacturing them this month, because they've had to finish the mold. So, they'll be obviously sold in Europe, and we're still trying to figure out how to sell them in America. I mean, Damiano asks me about it, but I'm not a distributor, so I'm not familiar. And if anyone listening kind of knows the American furniture distribution scene, would love advice. Shoot me a message or something, and we could figure that out, because we definitely want to sell them here, and people have been asking about when can I buy one in America, so gotta figure it out at some point.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I don't think a lot of young designers realize, is like now that you've made something, if you're making something on your own or in partnership with somebody or whatever it is, like, there have been people that have come to my dad and his factory to say, like, I want to make this thing. And it's like, well, do you have any plan for how you're going to sell it or market it? Because, like, for somebody like my dad, it's like he's not only manufacturing, but he's also like, he'll have to store whatever it is that they manufacture.
Right.
So he's got to keep the product here. So, like, there better be like and some orders on hand. So it's I don't know. There's unfortunately, designing is not just design, and that is one of the luxuries of, like, if you are a designer at a company, like, it's just something you never really have to deal with.
Right.
Yeah. You're like siloed. It's a trade-off because you're siloed only into design. You don't really have an impact across the company. I mean, it depends on the size of the company, but you're going to be sticking in your lane, which for some people, like, that's great. Like, that's perfect. I really enjoyed that. But there's a trade-off to that, which is you lose a lot of power there, by giving up a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've learned this, and you've also learned this with our hobby brands, Almost Object and Edor. But yeah, there's a lot more to, building a business than just the product itself.
Yeah, I'm still sitting on Edor inventory. I mean, luckily it's like, this big.
All right, yeah.
So it's not taking up too much space, but my wife is like, are we really moving this stuff across the country again?
Yeah, this is a plug. Can you buy the developer still?
I think I took the Shopify down.
Can't even buy them. Well, you got to DM James and get a Venmo James so that you can sell some more bottle. I mean, I still have yours. I love it. It's great.
Appreciate it. I have like dreams of starting something back up when I feel like I have a better grasp on my life.
Yeah.
But that is not this time. That is not this point in time.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, what else is going up?
Well, let's
going
see.
Down.
We could do a little, maybe just a quick little AI news, because we haven't really talked about this yet, and I think it's kind of impactful to industrial design, and that is image-to-image AI, which I guess we haven't talked about it because it's been 3 or 4 months, but I've been using it for several months now. This idea of taking a screenshot of Gravity Sketch and uploading that to AI and then rendering it out. So I did a sofa project a while back, just posted on Instagram, the volcano sofa, and that was just all like quick Gravity Sketch models that I screenshotted and then asked AI to make look real, make out of leather or cloth or fabric or whatever. And it's really pretty good. And I think the reason it's good is that, so I'm specifically using this website called Nouns AI, which was made by the Nouns DAO, which is an NFT project, which is a whole other thing. But they have the best algorithm for whatever reason. I've tried Viscom, and I think we've talked about Viscom. Viscom obviously does similar things where you can, I think, maybe you sent me this. I think Viscom now has the ability to upload a 3D model. So you can like spin the model around.
Yeah.
And then get
pretty
AI.
soon they're about to launch something that takes 2D and translates it to 3D.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it's starting to all converge like this, but it is, I think the image to image thing is really interesting. And I guess the specific AI software that people are using is Stable Diffusion Control Net. So if you want to mess with all the, details of it and like train your own AI, you can look that up. It's the open source one. But the Nouns AI is just great because it's just a quick website. And yeah, I mean, people don't. I've started putting some of these images in my presentations because it's like, well, I would render it the same anyways. It's not a big leap. It's it's not like it changes the design, right? It's not like Midjourney where you type something in or you combine two images and it's like, kind of inspired by, right? It's literally whatever screenshot you grabbed, it keeps the outline of whatever design you're creating and it just
Yeah.
covers it with the materials that you need. So it's,
Well, doesn't
it's going
it
to be a key shot killer in my opinion.
doesn't it have well, let's not just gloss over that.
Okay.
Nick Baker
Well,
quote,
don't hold me to this.
this is going to be a key shot killer.
Okay, no, no, no. I have a more nuanced opinion than that. I guess.
They're gonna block you out. But no, because I think Nouns has a similar thing to Viscom, which is like a slider, which is more or less influence from the image that you've uploaded.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, first of all, describe. I don't know that you really fully described, like you're taking a screenshot and then you're doing sort of a word prompting of like what you'd like to see as the outcome when it takes that and translates it into a rendering.
Yes. So it's like I'll design the sofa, and I think here's my nuance of the key shot thing is like it's great for getting like a rough idea for what a concept will look like. So if you have a concept in CAD, in 3D, and a lot of times we'll just throw it into KeyShot to get like a rough idea of like, okay, this is how the materials look. How does this feel, right? Um, presentation wise, I think KeyShot's still a great tool to get stuff like super polished and finished. But to get something rough, and specifically with where I am now, where I'm like licensing, and a lot of my process is coming up with concepts that are new and unique and not derivative, because it's also super easy to make something that has already existed in the furniture space. So I'll take CAD screenshot, render it, type out sofa with, red fabric in a white space photography, 85 millimeter camera or whatever. And then I'll download that screenshot. I'll upload it to Google Images so I can search similar images, make sure there's nothing that is a similar design. I'll upload it to Pinterest to do the same. I'll also try different fabric materials because sometimes, if you do a leather chair, it'll pop up with different search results. And so that's kind of been my use case for it. But some of the renders, and especially on that volcano sofa, since it's such a simple, primitive shape, some of the renders are just fine as is. Like, I don't need to put it into KeyShot. But most
Right.
designs, I would say, especially if you're doing like details and stuff, you're probably gonna still need to use some render engine. I mean, I assume that at some point KeyShot will just implement AI into their rendering engine so that it just moves really fast. Um,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's nice to think about. I think I sent you a text a week or two ago where I was kind of talking about how, you know, am I ever really going to need to learn Gravity Sketch, or anything like that? Because you know, it feels like in sort of this like VR versus AI or any of like the sort of like hard tools in AI, it's like, do uh, will I need to keep my skill set up like with new programs as I'm getting older as a designer, or is it actually going to just become easier and easier and more intuitive to interact with an AI to be like, this is what I want to see,
yeah,
and this is what I'm envisioning? Because like, just thinking about a program like Photoshop or Illustrator or Keyshot, like there's, you know, any one of us uses maybe like 10% of the features, but then like you find out about other features and like
yeah,
there's incredibly layered, intricate programs um, to try to achieve a certain thing and a certain look But if you can just like communicate back and forth with an AI to try and achieve that same result, like I feel like what it's going to do, what it could potentially do is mean that yeah, like I'm not going to have to like sit there and learn how to code in order to like create a website. It's just going to be as simple as communicating with back and forth with an AI to like sort that out.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think you're right. I think as time goes on, it'll be be more about curation. I know we've chatted about this before. I think what I'm kind of seeing, or what I think near term, is that the existing tools will adopt some sort of AI co-pilot. So, Photoshop already has this. A lot of the Adobe stuff already has this, where you can kind of ask AI to, fill in, stuff in Photoshop, which I have been using, which is also really great for like, I was like doing some vases and just adding flowers in Photoshop because it's way easier to add flowers than like download something off of, Turbo Squid or something. And it'd be interesting to see how that translates into 3D modeling. I wonder if like SolidWorks or Onshape will have this ability to say, drag and drop an image in, and then it gives you kind of this framework for some sort of parametric framework for modeling the thing. And it like already starts you off with the surfaces. Then all you have to do is like go in and make sure the dimensions are right. I think there's something there. I think that's kind of what I see the future being.
yeah, I just feel like it's going to, for a lot of designers, and I'm not like, obviously with students listening, like do not give up on the hard skills just yet. They're still very important.
Yeah.
Nothing is replacing them anytime soon, it seems like. I mean, I think if anything, like this is still showing that there's value in like just raw sketching, that like there's still going to be a place for that. It's not going to like, I saw something recently. I've been getting sent the stuff from I forget if it's Shaper or something, but they have this new app software that's like you can hand draw something and you can take a photo of it and it will vectorize it and make it into like a CNC path or something, like so I love that kind of like the bridging of those skills. But the thing that I think about is like there's a lot of mental fatigue to design. There's like, because of like having to use the hard skills, like there's just a lot of mental fatigue that goes into it. At least that's how I feel sometimes, like coming in for the day and you're like modeling, whatever. And you may have an idea, and there's this I don't know if you know this comedian Mitch Hedberg. He was a great comedian back in the day, like lots of like one-liners. He unfortunately passed away. I don't know, it was like 10 or 12 years ago. But he had this joke about how like he's like, if I'm in a hotel room and I think of a joke, but my notebook is across the room, I sit there and convince myself that it's not as funny as I thought it was, like kind of thing. It's like he goes through this process of like, it's not actually that good of a joke.
Doesn't want to get up
because he doesn't want to get up and go write it down.
Yeah, that's
but basically, like I just wonder how much of design like doesn't go a bit further because of just like individual fatigue.
Yeah.
Of just like I can't do anymore, and it's like it's like the quote. It's like the design that's finished. But it just makes me wonder.
Yeah, I think that's such a great insight, because that's definitely a big feeling that I have with the image to image, right? Because you 3D model something, especially when you do it in Gravity Sketch, which you can just do 1,000 of them, and it's like, yeah, it's whatever. It's maybe a good idea, maybe not. Do I really want to put it in a KeyShot to test and see if it's a good idea? But putting it into AI is like, oh, that's an easier lift. I just take a screenshot and drag and drop it for 30 seconds and I can get a better idea. So I think there's something there. I think I agree with you. There's something there about kind of the easy lift of proving out ideas quicker with AI.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's AI news. Do we want to do? There's a few more. Just a few. One last thing on the list, James. I mean,
okay,
we don't
we
do
can talk
podcasts
about it.
too often, so we gotta let's.
No, we could talk about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, we got a new social media, Threads they call it.
Yeah. New platform just
Yeah.
dropped.
What's your hot take? You got a hot take?
Um I am, speaking of fatigued, I'm fatigued of people talking about like, oh, Elon must be so sad, and like, oh, bye-bye Twitter. And it's just like, okay, we get it. This is like pretty much exactly like Twitter except for it's Instagram. I think it's funny, like people talk about how this is going to be a better platform. Like people seem to be like conveying like this is the ultimate, like this will not degenerate into madness the way that Twitter did. And it's like, I mean, this is from the company that brought us Facebook. Like Facebook also degenerated, but like I feel like social media platforms have a life cycle, and like I feel like Facebook now is like pretty tame, and but like I the reason, if I'm really being honest about Threads, the reason I prefer it to Twitter is because I gained a far greater following on Threads in a very short amount of time compared to Twitter, which I
Very
joined the
smart
Twitter
move,
game.
yeah.
I joined the Twitter game so late, and it's just like trying to get any sort of traction on tweets versus like Threads. I don't know. I like the general. I do like the general like layout and functionality of an app like Threads or like Twitter versus Instagram. Like I do kind of feel at this point like I'm kind of over Instagram, and I'm glad that Threads has come along because I do feel like it's a better app. Like it's a better app for like even just sharing photos and things and content, because it doesn't feel, the stakes don't feel as high as they do on Instagram. I think the thing that I really got tired of with Instagram was this feeling of like, oh God, should I post this? Like this, I don't know. This
Has to be polished.
This might be.
Yeah.
With something like Threads or Twitter, I feel like I can just like shoot it out there. Like it doesn't feel as precious. And I think that that's good for social media. Like I don't think that the anguish over like curation is it's just like not worth it for me at this point.
Yeah. Instagram.
But how are you feeling?
Yeah, Instagram definitely became kind of a portfolio for many people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's funny. Like, excuse me, I had posted the bell curve meme, which is such a good meme, where you have like the angry like Wojak at the top with everyone, and then the two like one's not a genius and the other is a genius. And I think my meme was like everyone that was angry was just like, Twitter sucks, or Thread sucks, and then the bell curve, the two genius, or the dumb person, the genius, was like, oh, cool, new app, new app to post on. That's how I felt. I was like, yeah, that's whatever. It's like a cool new app to try out. I think I think my realization is like, not everyone that posts amazing photos has entertaining or funny words. That's my realization, is that there are very different demographics on Twitter versus Instagram. So I don't know how that will play out. I think obviously the big thing right now, and I'm sure this will get fixed eventually, is just the following feed. Like all I see is normie posts, and it kills me because like I just hate that stuff. I don't like I'm not a big, movie. The mainstream culture is not my vibe, James. You know that. I like the fringe, the weird memes.
Yeah, no, that is definitely that's what I noticed immediately when Threads started, was just like, this app is really dull.
Right.
Like the people that are posting, or at least the people that Threads is pushing to my main feed, it's just dull. It's not very funny. It was just all like Twitter versus Thread memes. And it's just like, okay, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm interested to see how it evolves, and like, yeah, who ends up prominent on this platform. Of course, like Gary V is like,
Yeah.
already.
There's a lot of people I just had to unfollow. I think the funny thing is that I clicked follow all or whatever. When you signed up, you could say just
Oh yeah,
move everything
I did
over.
not do that.
I did that and I was like, oh, that was my realization. Like, oh, I need to stop. Like,
Mistake.
It's not even that bad. It's just like you follow some like furniture brands or design brands, and then they're just showing you their products again. And it's like, well, I'd rather see the product on Instagram, and I don't really care about seeing it again on Threads.
Yeah. No, and people posting about like, oh, Wendy's is still very spicy on Threads. It's like, I don't.
Right. That's like the normie stuff that I'm like, oh gosh.
Big brand clapback, like kind of stuff. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I just like, I don't, when I first got on, it was like, would you like to follow Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, like, Kylie Jenner, like J-Lo? I'm like, what is this algorithm? Like, I'm sure that all of these people maybe like signed deals with Threads that said like, we'll promote Threads if you put us, like, it's like when they released that was it an iPhone or an iPod that had that U2 album preloaded onto it?
Exact same scenario. It feels very much like that, doesn't it?
It's like, oh God, come on, please spare me.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think I'm a fan of both Zuck and Elon, as you know, so I support them both. We'll see.
Yeah, you're going to support them both in the octagon. That's
gonna be a tough one. What's your
fight?
Who are you betting on? No, I think obviously I think if they fought today, I'd bet on Zuck just because of his physique. But if Elon gets together, he has the weight behind him. He's built like a refrigerator, so he could throw that weight around.
I just imagine Elon, he's like, did you ever watch, I'm sure you didn't, so this is going to be lost on you, but did you ever watch Dragon Ball Z?
No.
Okay. There's a season of Dragon Ball Z where they all go to another planet, but one of the members, like one of the main characters, Goku, is still recovering from a fight from the previous season. And so he leaves late for the planet, but he knows that he has to go and defeat some crazy, villain on that planet. And so on the way there, he's in this spaceship, and he realizes that he can change the level of gravity in the spaceship. And so he's cranking up the gravity every day as he's working out. That's what I imagine Elon is doing. He's going to go
sure.
He's going to go Super Saiyan at the end of this.
Man.
But no, I would not count out Zuckerberg. I feel like people often underestimate him.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously a lot of people were excited about Threads just because they don't like Elon. So it's funny to kind of see Zuck back on the rise, which I've been a investor in the Zuckerverse for a long time just because of the headset and everything, and it's big Instagram user. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think here's my takeaway is that I'm enjoying it because it feels like we're in this fresh era of tech companies realizing like, oh, we actually have to start shipping stuff now. It felt like for the past, 5 or 6 years, things kind of got a little like bloated and stale, especially with kind of a lot of money just sloshing around the economy. We had the shock to the system with Corona and kind of the downturn in the economy, and coming back now, it feels like, okay, like we need to provide value. And now that there's, two competing, actually there's a ton of competing Twitter copies. It's like, okay, now we're going to see who's actually going to build the valuable app, right? So
Right.
that's
No, that's
kind of
super
what
interesting.
I'm excited about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly thinking about like, and there's no way that I'm going to find this before anybody else, but I'm constantly thinking like there is somebody out there who's working on the thing that crushes all of these things. Like these guys, like, the Zuckerbergs, the Elons, anybody who owns one of these like tech companies or whatever, they're like the current oil barons of the day.
Right.
And they'll probably always be wealthy and, whatever. But like, 30 years ago, we didn't have, I think, well, am I correct in this? 30 years ago? Yeah, like 30 years ago, we didn't have Google, we didn't have Amazon, we didn't have
Right.
Facebook, and suddenly they're the big Goliaths, and so it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I mean, I guess it is the AI, maybe the
right.
AI.
I think that's the AI bet. It's like there's going to be some kind of,
Yeah.
or it could be the tech companies that pivot with the AI. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or it could just be we all get sucked into the Apple Vision Pro and we're all just like, in the metaverse.
I can't do it. But no, I mean, or World War III breaks out and the next app is called Sticks and Stones.
Blueberries and Buffalo or something. That'll be the other one. That's the competing one for.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting. I think that's a really good point about how these tech companies now like really they cannot ride just like off of pure investment anymore. Like
Yeah.
they need to actually provide. So yeah.
It's also nice too because, like you said, all the followers moved over, and I feel like there's a lot more design convo happening on Threads as opposed to Twitter. But
yeah,
cool, good,
all right, man.
Good ep, James.
Good ketchup and mustard.
As always, I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
Peace.
Later.